Welcome to the Loveability Podcast. My name is Jennifer Stiers, and I'm here to talk love, relationships, sex, marriage, and everything in between. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Loveability Show. I'm Jennifer Stiers, and I missed y'all. It is Valentine's Day, and it is hard for me to get in the groove today. I kept forgetting I had a show today, so I'm excited to see some of you already jumped on. And I have a guest today I'm super excited about. So I have got Jason Jones. He is a doctor. He's a PhD. He's so cool. He wrote this amazing book. It's called Activator, but I met Jason. He does a lot of he is also a psychologist. And he knows the brain. He just understands neuroscience. We have the geekiest conversations, but they're awesome. We're both excited. And so we're going to be really excited with you today. So happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you're doing something fun tonight. Hope you have some fun plans. And I'm just excited we're here on Love Day, National Love Day. So we are going to, I've been 3 weeks off the show because we were supposed to do the show 2 weeks ago and we had the inclement weather. So I have all this stuff built up, all these things I want to talk to you about. And a lot of my material is charged by things that you guys are doing or not doing. So we'll have some rants in here at some point. So I know Jason's going to trigger me today because a lot of the great stuff he's going to talk about. So Jason has this book called Activator, Using Brain Science to Boost Motivation, Deepen Engagement, and Supercharge Performance. He talks to a lot of corporate companies. He's a big speaker, trainer. He's been a teacher before many years ago. He used to have a podcast many years ago as well. You're going to find him super interesting, but here's what we want to talk about today. And I'm going to introduce him and let him tell you about what he does and give his background, not little background, but your background. And I want to tell you, we want to relate a lot of this to love and relationships because we could do better. And, here we are on National Love Day. And everybody that's watching, most everybody is either in a relationship and wants it to be better or wants to learn how to be better in it, or they're single and want to find love. And there are specific things we might be doing to drive that away from us, to repel it versus attract it. And so we're going to talk about those today. So Jason, why don't you tell the audience, we're so happy to have you, tell the audience a little bit about you and your background.
Yeah, sure. So I am, you mentioned, an organizational psychologist. Mm-hmm. And so in essence, what that is that means I am a psychologist. I study and practice behavior and brain science as well in the workplace.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that I go around counseling people all the time in the workplace, but instead I look at and kind of focus in on what are the behaviors, the mindsets, the attitudes, what leadership type of behaviors and the way people interact with each other, what drives people wanting to stay in their job, enjoying their job, being engaged in it, motivated in it, and ultimately what all companies want, right, is their people to be higher performers.
Right.
And so for individuals, how can we become a higher performer so we get paid more, but also because we, find a place we love to work, right? Yeah. It's a third of our lives is spent working, so why not do something that we enjoy and that we like. And it may not be
Absolutely.
the most fun thing in the world, right? But if we can be around people we like,
Yeah.
and if we can do some things we feel good about and maybe have some interest in, it makes life a whole lot more worth living.
And
right?
an environment in which to do it in that's, like a good culture.
Absolutely.
Because you could love what you do and have the worst company or bad leadership, and it makes your life hell.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
complete hell.
Yeah.
So Darren says hello. He didn't know you were going to be on the show today, so that's a friend of
Darren.
yours. Carl, Christine, Jasmine, Ron, Darren, Kelly. Hi, everybody. Good to see everybody. Okay, so relationships. This is what he does. So he's used to dealing with having high level conversations with people. But looking at behaviors, and where we started this conversation is you noticed, as everybody does, there's some problems with dating today. There's some problems with people that are looking for love. So I really want to help people today. I titled this "Love and Other Things" because there's so many things, so many places we can go, but one of your areas of specialty is the brain. So one of the things he was talking to me about is how men and women's brain work differently when we show up for a relationship. We show up to date, we show up to impress somebody. So let's talk about that because that could show where the disconnect is sometimes in the fact that sometimes women say, well, men talk too much and they didn't ask me about me because they're spouting their resume out there. Right, and women are all worried about just looking pretty versus showing up with anything of substance. So so let's hit that.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why I really wanted to have an opportunity to talk about this is just because fundamentally when we look at whether it be in the workplace or it's in our relationships at home, it's with our friends, even our family and how we grew up and whether we want to interact with them now or not as adults, right?
Yeah.
It really comes back to we are attracted to people who we feel are for us and who are trying to help us to be who we were meant to be, to be our best selves, right? And so I really like to look at the best relationship.
Is that a guy thing? That's what guys are looking for.
I think this is what everyone's looking for. When you think about when you feel good, when you leave a conversation with anyone,
the connection.
When you feel good, it's usually when you've had a situation where your dopamine has been raised in your brain. You have this feel good, and that is mainly because of the interaction.
Right.
And that interaction you've had has done something to, first of all, the primal part of your brain, the most, it's the lizard parts right there at the brainstem, where something has helped you feel safe and secure. And you have
now you're talking chick stuff.
Okay, and you feel safe and secure, and you feel like this person is for you and going to help you. Right, and then that allows you then kind of take it to the next level, which is going to be kind of to that midbrain, which is really about emotion.
Right.
And there's some things in there around a reward, the reward center, the feeling, the emotion center, and then there's a third part of the brain.
And I don't want to interrupt you, but
go
I am
ahead.
going to interrupt you. But that first part opens up a space for the second part, especially for women, because if a woman feels loved, supported, and safe, it is going to make her emotionally connected to you guys. And that is what is going to ultimately cause her to want to go out with you again or like you or find you more attractive than she did when she walked in the door, because there's a connection. The connection. So we're looking for ultimately that connection.
And it's that connection. It's we could sometimes call it the vibe, right?
Right.
And there's a lot of things within that communicates to that. But if you think about it, our brains. If you take a man's brain out and a woman's brain out of their head, they look the same. There was a time maybe 5 or 6 decades ago, there were people, psychologists, medical doctors that would say, a man's brain and a woman's brain, they're essentially the same. They are structurally, but when you look at how the brain actually functions, and even where they're more developed parts of the brain, and then the chemistry of the brain, it is very different, right? And so a woman comes to a first date, or when you're texting for the first time, if you met on an app or something like that, And the perspective is often a lot different. It comes from a perspective of safety first. Is this person for me, against me, or can they be trusted? Is this person trustworthy? Consistency, things like that.
Perception. What you're talking about here is perception, and this is where if somebody's not healthy, healed or whole, or is coming in with a wound, that their perception of what they see is going to be completely different.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, here's where I'm just going to engage. I put a post up on my page. I don't know if you saw it, but it was this guy that put this really authentic post up for Valentine's Day, what he was looking for. And he put it together well. Who cares what it is? I'm not looking to, it wasn't like I was looking to put him with somebody and actually find people for him. But it was just the process of what he went through to say, here's who I am. I'm throwing it out there. I'm being authentic and real. This is who I am. This is what I bring to the table. This is what I'm looking for. This is who you are. And we know that that's what you have to go through. If you want to attract something into your life, and and we should be, the more specific we are, the better we are at finding it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And then we had all these women coming in and attacking him. Like, you're a narcissist because you want that. And you said this, so that means you're a sex addict or a son. And it's just like, whoa, with the wounds.
Yeah.
With all your, because, I read it. I didn't get any of that,
Yeah.
We're all hitting different with our triggers, and that's
right.
the brain.
That's right.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
We're talking again, right? This continuum, and the women coming from one perspective, men coming from another perspective. A man will come at it from the real cerebral side, right? The more rational side, typically, and they're going to come into it trying to. If we don't watch it as men, and I'm a single guy, if we don't watch it, we try to come to it from that, hey, this is why you should date me. This is why I'm a good choice. Or, this is why I'm cool.
Right.
And that's not the first thing typically that a woman is looking for. It is the safety side, and it is the especially today, right?
Yeah.
And biologically, women are much more attracted to what a safe person would be, someone that's going to take care of them and also not harm them, right? But there also is that piece there of consistency and honesty that's really important.
Is such a big word.
One of the reasons why women get, and you women can confirm this or deny it if you want to, but I have female friends that say that the pet peeve is on a profile, a dating profile, a man won't put anything, won't write a thing at all. Well, that is a red flag when there's nothing written at all, because it looks like you're hiding something.
Right.
Because the female brain wants some type of information to be able to know, is this person consistent? Are they trustworthy? Are they honest? What can I know about them? And if there's nothing there, it looks like you're hiding something.
Yeah.
Right? Now, let's go the opposite of that. When a woman has a long list, a huge profile saying all these things about, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, what does that say to a man?
What does it say to a man?
What do you think? As a woman, what do you think it says to a man?
I think it says she's high maintenance and I'm never going to meet her needs, and that's way too much, and it's just he'd be overwhelmed.
Yeah, it sounds like this is someone hard to satisfy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and oh wow, look what I'm getting. I better be ready for a lot for this.
Yeah.
And so I think oftentimes what that does, remember, man's hitting this from the rational standpoint, right? He's thinking through, what is this relationship going to look like if it does go further? And
yes.
And so we're seeing this kind of from the different perspectives.
Barrett, one of my, I haven't seen you in a while, Barrett. Hello, Barrett Mason. We used to do radio together. This society has gone nuts. And it affects relationships too, of course. Easier in the 50s or 60s when we still had some rules we could follow, but the hippies dismantled everything, and now we have no rules to go by, which is true. Somebody dismantled everything. But yeah, it is. It's been kind of a free-for-all. It's really, technology's really thrown a loophole into a lot of this. What they haven't, and I think Jason brings up good points, it doesn't matter how technology changes or how people change. Our brains are still coming in the same way. Now, granted, how we process information in our brains that input and output is going to look different. and it could be confusing. I think about even that post today of that guy. He had this long explanation, and the women all hated his. Some of the women, shouldn't say that, a couple women didn't like his long explanation. I came in very rational about it. Like, look what he did. How great, how much of a man's brain. But look how great that he did this list, and he came out and was clear on what he wanted, and, knew that ahead of time. Don't worry about the details and what it is, but get clear on what you're looking for to this degree. It doesn't matter what it says, it's your list.
Yeah.
But having said that, it's just there's so many people's wounds, their hurts, their childhood wounds. Everything comes into play when we meet somebody. I mean, so that first, this is a great conversation.
And we have to watch that, right?
Yes.
Because, those are there, both on the female and male side.
Yes.
And I think females probably are a little more aware of it than what males are. But we have to think about, be aware of what we are putting on our profiles, right? What we're even talking about at the very beginning of conversations with people. We can't spill out everything too quickly, but also we can't be too guarded. There's a mix. There's a mix and a balance there. Yeah. But I think sometimes maybe where we go wrong is that we don't give enough, or we give too much.
That's a good point. Very good point.
We maybe overthink kind of what we should be doing, and so that some people, that tends to make them put way too much and at the beginning share too much. But other people, it may make them more a little more defensive, maybe.
So let me throw
protection oriented.
So where does this come from? Because I hear a lot of women saying, not men, but women saying that they go on dates and that the men talk about themselves the whole time and never ask the woman questions. I think the other piece of that is the woman asks a lot of questions and expects the man to fire back. So she has this expectation. If you ask a lot of questions, ladies, he's going to answer them. He's like on an interview, he's going to answer them. You can't get mad at him for talking too much or not asking questions. You're drilling him. You know what I mean?
And you're probably like this as well. I've experienced all of that.
Yeah.
And I've been single after a long marriage. I've been single for 3.5 years now, so I've had plenty of dates, Tinder dates, Bumble dates, Hinge dates, whatever.
Wow.
Right? And I can tell you that there have been very many different types of interactions I've had with people. That's why we kind of call this where we kind of feel that vibe or that chemistry that's hard to really nail down.
Yeah.
But I've had situations where I've reflected back and went, wow, I talked way too much.
Yeah,
and then I think about, well, why did I talk way too much? And I start thinking about, I was uncomfortable. Maybe I was trying to impress this person.
Yeah.
Maybe they weren't talking as much, so I was trying to fill in the gap, right? Because I didn't want it to be awkward.
Right.
And all of that comes back to the fact that I probably wasn't being as authentic as I probably could be. And over the past probably year or so, I really have made it for myself a point of being more intentional about that and thinking about how do I want to show up, and it being okay if I show up as not the person that person would like.
Thank you. Exactly.
That takes. I guess it takes a lot of guts to do that. You don't want to show up and just be, well, this is me, and just lay it all, your worst characteristics out there. You want to be intentional. You want to try to be who you're striving to be, but without being someone that you're not.
Right.
If that makes sense, right?
Yeah. And authenticity is a big deal right now. I mean, that's out of all the things, it's one of the highest on the list. That's what people are looking for, is authenticity. And in order to do that, you do have to show up and be vulnerable, and you do have to be yourself. And our goal is not we want the other person to like us. We want to fall in love ultimately, but the goal isn't that on a first date. It's just to get to know somebody. And if you're yourself and show them who you are, and then there's a bond, then it's going to be easy. But if you are pretending, or you're trying to put your best foot forward, or you're like on a job interview and trying to impress, then the rest of as it goes downhill, that's why people go, well, they're not the same as when I met them, or they changed. They just didn't show up as themselves.
Yeah. And if you want to take this back to the brain, the neuroscience of this, it's a study. It's a sub-study of neuroscience called the social brain. And the social brain is really looking at how we communicate with other people, how our brains communicate in a way we don't even realize. So it's subconscious. And it's fascinating because now we know, even, just over the last 5 to 10 years, we now have like fMRI machines, functional magnetic resonant imagery, which actually gives you a video of how the brain changes and where the activity is going on, in comparison or contrast to what an MRI would be just a picture, right? So now we actually can see activity, and we now are being able to better understand what things look like when we actually communicate or when we think.
So what are the themes on that? I hope we're not geeking y'all out, because this is a great conversation to me. But what are we seeing is activated in men the most on a date, and what are we seeing? What things are we? I don't want to call them emotions because it could be different. What is activated in the woman? So what is there any?
Yeah. So what the whole idea of the social brain is the fact that when we show up, we communicate in ways that other people pick up on, and some of it can be even as small as micro expressions that we don't even know that we're kind of telling things, right? Our eye movement and what we're looking at and how much we're listening. Someone can pick up on that. For women, this is an area that is very much primal, in that primal brain, the brainstem, that really is.
So woman's watching
you're much more attentive to this than what men are, right?
Oh yeah, I'll tell you that.
And so you can pick up on this.
For sure.
We used to call it, a woman's intuition. Now we know that it's just a more developed part of our brain. If you think about, the history of mankind, and, women have spent more time in social situations and in situations to try to determine this.
But here's the only problem with that, is that here's what the women do. They do that. They'll go, oh, well, we had a great time, but he wasn't looking at me, like he wasn't making eye contact. And he wasn't interested. I mean, he was looking at other things at times and didn't make direct eye contact with me. So I must not have turned him on. He's just not into me. So they make all these assumptions because of that. I mean, at the end of the day, somebody could be ADD. And when you're in an environment where there's a bunch of activity going on, it's hard sometimes for people to focus. It doesn't mean they're not interested. So making assumptions about things that you pick up on. If you pick up on something, I always say, if you pick up on it, ask. Just ask. I've had men and women that'll like be on a date and they'll go, "Is there something interesting over there? Because you keep looking, and like they will just call him out. I know many years ago, so many years ago, but it taught me a huge lesson. I was multitasking. I was checking my emails while I was on the phone call with a client. And I love her to this day. We're still, still friends. But she said, "Jennifer, I don't feel like you're listening to me. Like I feel like you checked out." And you're right. You're 100% right. An email came in. I went to check it. I checked out. But she could even feel the disconnect on the phone. And so, it's an energy thing. If you're connected with somebody and you're going, people feel your connection or disconnection. So I feel like it's important to, talk about on a date, to stay focused and to stay intentional and to, that focus.
Absolutely. And know and realize that we all have the BS detector, right? And we don't even know that we have a BS detector, but we can pick up on it on people. And that's why I think the authenticity, that's one of the first things that this social brain can really detect is this person being real, authentic? And if not, we're not going to have a good feeling about them. And we don't have the right chemistry. We'll have more cortisol in our blood, which is a stress hormone, than we will have dopamine or serotonin, which is where we walk away feeling good and on a high after being with somebody.
But aren't some people attracted to that? So some people need that's love to them if they're unhealthy. That sometimes it could cortisol is what they're looking for. They're looking for that drama. They're looking for that chaos. They're looking for that charge of something that's a little frightening or a little scary or a little undetermined, or they leave questioning themselves or insecure, and they like that. There's some people that thrive on that.
I would say there's a subconscious that they probably subconsciously like it, and that's what draws them back to it. but consciously they'll talk about how they don't like it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Now there is
Sure.
adrenaline. Don't get confused with adrenaline, which it can be a good and a bad thing as well, right? It gets us excited. It gets us, it gives us energy and things like that. And we all have that. Usually men and women both have that. The reason why we have the feeling of butterflies in our stomach usually is not love. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's adrenaline.
Right.
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 And that could be a good thing or a bad thing, just depending on how you manage that. And some
Right.
people get addicted to the adrenaline
Right.
part of it as well.
100%.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
those
think
butterflies.
it really kind of, this is a way to kind of think about how we vibe with someone.
Yeah.
And I like to try to, friends that I have counseled around dating and things like that, is to, at least for the guy's standpoint, but I think it could work for women as well. And that is, have that conversation with yourself about, how do I want to show up?
Mm-hmm.
How do I be authentic, but also be that aspirational authentic, which is, I want to be my best self here. I want to put my best foot forward,
Mm-hmm.
but how do I do it in an authentic way, not in a fake way?
Right.
And then let the chemistry happen, because that's where that social thing is
Right.
the energy that each person brings in. If that's a good fit, there's going to be some energy connection there. And
Right.
we all know how that feels, right? When you have
Yeah.
a great conversation, or you
Yes.
feel like you have a lot in common, and there's that connection that you can kind of feel in that.
Which is why people, and this is another one of my rant themes. I promise I won't rant too long, though. But that's why some of you need to meet people in person. You may not be attracted to their picture, and I just wrote about this, but you're not going to be attracted to a picture. You're going to be attracted to a person and their energy. Yeah. You have to meet people to know whether there's a connection. I mean, Jason's over here talking. It's all about the connection. You'll never know if you're really going to have a connection or chemistry with somebody if you don't see if there's a connection. You got to meet them for that. You can't hear that over a phone call. You can't see that in somebody's picture. You've got to meet them. So sometimes stepping outside of your visual box and dating people or meeting people that you don't think are that great looking, you might have the most amazing connection with, right?
Yes, but let's talk about, how about sabotaging your authenticity?
Okay.
Because I think that happens in profile pictures, profiles. We kind of talked about that already.
Right, yeah.
There could be some sabotage in that, but
Right.
I think a lot of women self-sabotage in their pictures, trying to put something out there that may not be as authentic.
Right.
Now, if it's authentic for you, great.
So let's talk about authentic. What would be non-authentic in a picture you've seen of a
Well,
girl? So
I
ladies,
think
from a man, not me.
So this is, we've had this conversation just even related to the qualities of femininity and masculinity.
Oh, this
right?
is a good one. Yeah, ladies,
So,
listen. Good one.
There are a lot of profiles that women put up, and I believe, you tell me, but what I kind of guess here is and surmise is that they're putting up pictures to help a man to see, oh, I'm interested in things that you are probably interested in. Mm-hmm. And so you might have a woman, I've seen many of these, by the way, where the woman is shooting a gun, holding a gun. Mm-hmm. She's driving a Jeep in the mud. She's got a deer in her hands. She's
fishing.
Fishing. Just some things that are more masculine type of traits.
Right.
And if you're into that, that's great. But also know that what people see in pictures, they often kind of can kind of escalate what that means to them, right?
Right.
So, and I like to say it this way, and some of my guy friends, we've said this before, and that's like, okay, that's great, you like hunting, but honey, if I go hunting, I'm sorry, you're not going with me.
Right.
Because what do guys want to do? They
bond
99% of guys I know want to go hunting with their guy friends, right?
Right.
Same way with some of the other kind of more masculine hobbies that we like.
Right.
And what I think ends up happening is that those things kind of push a man away, because they're actually looking for more naturally,
feminine,
organically looking for more feminine traits in pictures.
Masculine
rather than
men
masculine
want
traits.
feminine women, period.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you talk about the person who had the comment a moment ago, maybe was kind of talking about that, because I think we have lost a lot of that.
Yes.
And hate
Equal
me
rights,
if you want to, but I
yeah.
feel like I have some science as well as some experience around
Yeah.
this, and a lot of input from friends. But I feel like too many men have become too feminized, and too many, and I say this with a pink shirt on,
Right.
and too many women have who believe that they need to show more masculine traits to be liked or to be accepted or to
Survive.
or reach their goals, right?
Right.
And I think men are just as guilty in that, just in a different way.
Well, and what's driving the others? We could just go on and on about this conversation, but as women get stronger and start pushing back and being in charge, I've heard a lot of men say, well, I want to be, but she's in charge and she beats me up, or not physically beats them up, but just mentally. Or men want to make women happy, and when she's complaining or she's not getting what she wants or getting to where she wants to go, and she's not driving the ship, then she makes his life difficult. So I think there's a lot of men that have taken a step back because they want to make the woman happy. So there's finally okay, well, what do you want to do? Whatever you want to do, because that's ultimately what ends up happening anyway, right? Yeah. So you ladies that you want a man to take charge and you want a leader, you got to take a step back and stop being a man and doing masculine things and taking charge if you want him to take charge.
And it's that yin and yang, right?
Yeah.
If you want more masculinity from your man, you need to show more femininity.
Yeah.
Because if you show more masculinity, that's going to push him into more femininity. That makes
sense.
Oh,
absolutely.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
So if a man wants more femininity, he needs to actually show more masculine type of traits, right? And so that this is one thing that I think it's somewhat controversial, because there are going to be some people that hear this and listen to this and say, oh, well, you're telling people how they're supposed to be. But what I'm talking about is something a little deeper and more. It's very biological.
It is biological.
And I know we live in a different world than we lived in 50 years ago or 100 years ago, especially when it comes to dating.
Yeah.
But now it just seems like this is much more highlighted, and we struggle as men and women to find out, how do we show up in an authentic way to find the person that is our person, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's authenticity. I think it's for men stepping into your masculinity.
And
not
staying
trying
there.
to be something that you think the woman wants you to be.
Thank you.
Even though almost every profile is a list from women saying, this is what I want in a man, right? And we wonder why men are leaving in droves from these.
Right.
Or if they're on there, it's they're maybe not looking for a long-term relationship, but looking more for a hookup, right?
Right.
And so, but in the same way, you look at it from a female standpoint, what does a female do from a feminine perspective to, even in conversation, right? To exemplify more of those feminine traits that would encourage that man to have more of the masculine traits.
And what would those be? So as a man, what do you find, what makes you feel supported and manly when you're on a date with a woman?
Yeah. So it may be easier to say what not to do maybe than.
Okay, that's fine.
But no, I think first of all, it is there's a submissiveness to it. Now, I have to be very careful when I say this.
Don't not hear you don't. Just say it. Yeah, it's a fine, good word.
But I think a big part of femininity is some submissiveness, and I say that from a perspective of, oh, don't do everything someone tells you to do, or be this weak, submissive partner.
Right.
That's not what it is, but it is being one who is open to leadership.
Right.
And especially from your man. And that's usually what most women are saying they want anyway, right? It's like, plan a date. Just be a man and plan. Yeah, I see that all the time.
Yeah.
Just be determined. Have some goals in life. Have a job you've had for more than a few years, right?
Yeah.
And that, by the way, those are masculine traits, right, for men. And I think for any man that is struggling in dating,
that's
there's
stability,
some
consistency, going right
things,
back to what you talked about initially. Stability, consistency,
Yeah, and there's fundamental things for men that they can do to, just taking care of themselves, their body and their mind, right? With their work, learning, being responsible with their money, dressing a little bit nicer, taking care of their. There's a lot of things, we probably call those low-hanging fruit. For women, it's a little more subtle.
Yeah.
For women, a lot of times it has to do with even dress, tone of voice, cadence. So I was watching a dating show, I won't say which one it was, and this was just a couple of weeks ago, watching a dating show, and me and a female friend were watching this, and while we were watching it, we saw that one of the women sat down with the man, and she was drilling him with questions. And you could tell she probably had a leadership role at work because she was conducting that like an interview. Right. But it came across like she was very direct, and her tone was very serious and and it's no wonder that guy was like, whoa, this woman's a little bit too much. You know? And it was
intense.
It was very intense, right?
Yeah.
And so even things like tone, how you respond, the words that you use, and it's really hard to say this, but it's the chemistry. How are you showing up? We know one of the big differences in male and female is testosterone and estrogen, right? And both men and women have both. Right. Just we have much more testosterone as men. Women have testosterone as well. And we know now through the science that we can literally smell hormones. We pick up on the hormone excretion in our bodies of another person.
Yeah.
That's one of the social psychology things, right? And so we used to know about, it was a big thing when we found out about this in the 90s about pheromones and how women's ovulations can actually align when they work together in the same room together. That's because you guys are communicating through hormones. Well, we do this with men and women as well. And one of those things I believe with women is how you're communicating to your man, just in terms of how you're showing up. What, are you supportive? The words that you're using that's showing some men, very big. Here, one of the keys to men, right? Men want to have a sense that they are being supported, and that there is that the woman that they're with has some sense of admiration for them. That does not mean you have to bow down to them, that you have to, always be, saying nice things about it. But they want that sense of that woman is like, oh, impressed with you. That she likes you. She looks up to you in terms of a man and a masculine partner. Just like as a man wants to see, most men want to see a woman that has those feminine traits that they can just, embrace and to love and to show everyone everyone how womanly and how beautiful this woman is. And so
there's no competition. There shouldn't be competition there in that. And it's okay, ladies. We don't want to dumb ourselves down. Men want intelligent women. They want a woman that can speak their mind and be direct and be authentic and honest. But we can all do that, men and women, with grace. And women definitely need to remember, and I just even think of the conversation on my Facebook page today. It was so testosterone. It was a woman. It's just attacking, and that's not our nature. I mean, if we don't like something, it's fine, but to beat something up or to call it names or to be judgment, you know what I mean? To just all that masculine energy of that fight is not a turn on for men. It's not a turn on for men, ladies. They don't, they want to make you happy. They're going to look at energy like that, and that's not, that they're not ever going to be able to please you. And if a man doesn't feel like he can make you happy or please you, he's not even going to try. He's going to give up. And he can do that on a first date. He can figure that out he can figure that out before a first date. I've actually had people that decided not even to go on a first date because of the interaction before the first date. If it's too high maintenance leading up to that first date, or guys too low maintenance, if you are trying or doing something, you hear that from women. They make a plan, make a date. Guys, you've become lazy. I'm sorry. That's just what it is. Either you're trained to step back, which I don't really think is the case. I think guys have gotten lazy as women have gotten more aggressive. And so they're not making the plans. And that's why women get frustrated, because they may be texting back and forth for 2 weeks or on the app for a month, and the guy hasn't asked him out. And now I'm seeing women, I hear men say on these apps that the women are immediately, some of them, like the first interaction or second interaction, well, when are we going to meet? When are we going to go out? Like aggressively, pretty much saying, ask me out. Ask me out, or I'm not going to, or I'm gone. And guys don't want that threat either. So when you talk about being intentional, ladies, you need to figure out your delivery on some of this based on what he just said about being feminine. Figure out your delivery on how you want to show up and act and what you want to say if a guy's not, doing what you want him to do, or you're not getting where you want to get, or you're tired of the BS, or, beating around the bush. How do you be direct but still be a woman and be feminine and allow the man to ask you out, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep. Absolutely.
Because I think so many women go in for the kill versus saying, you know what, I would love to see you. I would love to meet you. You've just thrown the bone out there. If a guy's too stupid to pick it up, then you're in the wrong place anyway, right? But if you can feed and support him in that way, tell him what you want, tell him what you desire, right? And it's him, and it's him or time with him. Do it in that way, so that you're communicating in a feminine way that's going to allow him to be what you want him to be, which is the leader that everybody.
And if you want to train a man, lead some of this through communication. But then when a man does some of those things, the masculine traits, the leadership, when they do it, then appreciate that.
Yes,
and
acknowledge
tell him how
it.
much, and don't go overboard like, it's about time you did this, But, this is great. I love
that you opened my door. I love that you made these plans
for the night. Or I love a determined man. Or I love a man who has a plan. Things like that. And not just words, too, but, show it with your affection and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because that actually brings, it kind of doubles that type of communication or reinforcement when you do that.
Good
so
stuff.
I think that is that's a big thing for women. I do feel we're in a world where it's not the easiest, and I will tell you from a man's standpoint, I do think many men have really fallen back. Men have not been taught like I think men were taught.
I agree.
In prior years, prior decades, about what a man's supposed to do.
And they've been trained badly too, because women, and I also hold women at fault with this, because ladies, if you allow a man to treat you badly, if you allow him to, come into your life, not ask you out or treat you badly, go away for weeks, and then you accept him back, his bad behavior, you've got to start, don't be desperate, ladies. If he treats you bad or he doesn't meet the basic standard of what he should be doing, not your standard, but just the basics, connecting with you, asking you out, taking the lead, making it happen in a timely manner, in a respectful manner. If he's not doing those things, he doesn't want to, he's not into you. Move along. Just move along and stop accepting bad behavior, because if women would stop accepting bad behavior, men would stop getting away with it, and they'd stop doing it. They'd realize they have to work a little bit harder. And
unfortunately, it just seems like it's not just in dating and relationships, but in a lot of areas, social media has exacerbated bad behavior.
Oh, God.
And in a way, it's made things easier for dating, but that's probably the negative, there's a big negative side of that, of making things easier in some ways to meet people or, filter people out. So,
speaking of social media, I think that, how are we doing on time? I think we also could use this time as well for cleaning up your pages, everybody, cleaning up your social media pages, because there is, you talk about subconscious messages and conscious messages. Who you are, who you're being on your page, your posts, your comments, your tone, right? Your pictures, all of that tells somebody who you are or not. And it's you're putting it out there. So you have to be really, really careful. I mean, you really do. Even people make assumptions. Like you were talking about the pictures of the girl with the gun, which, is pretty cool and fun that a girl can shoot a gun. But, the hunting and all that stuff. Or even, ladies, I'll go as far as to say, don't kill me. My Southern mother raised me well. Getting on there without makeup, or your hair looks like crap, and you're getting, you're taking pictures.
Or the opposite of that, and that is where all of your pictures are filtered.
Sure.
There are a lot of guys who are like, they've been burned, they've been catfished, right? And if you're all filtered, if you're all filtered, or it's just side views or things, they're going to think, oh, you're hiding something,
right?
But the same way with men, right? If all your photos have hats on or sunglasses, women are going to think you're hiding something,
Right.
and they're not going to want to match with you.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, that whole filter thing is it's a huge problem because they're going to meet you, and the amount of stories that I hear and have heard over the years of, who are you fooling by doing that and blurring out your face? Somebody's going to see who you are.
Yeah.
So Darren says, on an app, I tend to put effort in first, but if it's not reciprocated, she takes days to respond. Gives 3-word responses. God, this sounds like men. Or doesn't engage and ask questions. It makes me think I don't want to invest the energy. It makes me think she's either not interested, talking to too many other guys at the same time, or more interested in me as a foodie call. A foodie call.
I love it.
Not booty call, foodie call.
Yeah.
So that's great, Darren.
I agree with what Darren's saying 100%. I've experienced
Not just because
that.
you're friends, but
And,
because you're guys.
And it's frustrating.
Yeah.
And I'm sure women are kind of that as well.
I hear that about women all the time.
Men are like, why even match if you're not going to even say anything?
Right.
Or you're going to not engage in the level of like basic conversation, or take a week or two to even get back to you, right?
Yeah, if somebody's doing that, if somebody's that lazy, they're not going to put the effort in a relationship. So take it as a sign.
Yep.
Don't take it personally. Just take it as a sign and move on.
Yeah. So this is, let's just talk about the reality of this.
Okay.
This is what you get when you make things too easy, too convenient,
Yes.
and cheap. Or free, nearly free,
Right.
Whether you're paying $9 a month or $20 a month, that still is pretty cheap, right? To be able to meet people that way.
Yeah,
This is what we get. This is the reality of all the frustration that we have.
Are you talking about the apps being?
Yes, yeah. This because of the apps. They're easy, cheap. They take no sense of responsibility.
Hey, listen, those apply to every single one of those apply to people too.
Yeah.
Every single trait you just said, it could be an app, but it could be people. If your surface, if you've come across as too cheap, if you're too easy, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it goes for people. That is 100%.
You get what
goes
you
across
get whenever you absolutely. And this is why that and I know we're still dealing with some of the COVID stuff, but. This is why people got to get out. You got to get out and be human with people and connect, because that's going to be a better way for you not only develop your social skills, but also to really figure out if you connect with someone. And
face to face,
apps can work, but in apps, we have to realize that we get what we get, right? When we have something so easy, cheap, fast, and that sort of thing. And so that's why I've tried to think of. I'm not on apps right now since I'm seeing somebody, but that. I know, I remember very well the frustration you have with that. And then what it ends up doing is you kind of get that
burnout.
Well, yeah, you get that feeling of, I'm not going to get my hopes up. Right. So you kind of can become negative with it.
Or you just stop dating. I know a lot of people who just get such a bad attitude.
Throw your hands up
They're
and
like,
say,
this
forget
sucks. There's nobody out there for me. All these people suck. And maybe they do where you are. But I mean, Jason's right. You guys, you need to branch out. I mean, you need to go places where you have, interests, and get out in front of people, even if it's restaurants, even if you're not, because who really goes to bars anymore besides alcoholics and party animals, right? Yeah. So go to nice places for dinner. Go have a drink at the bar before or after dinner. Those are the kind of places that you're going to meet people.
Go to meetups and look for places that have like the same hobbies that you have.
Yeah.
Right. Almost every city has Facebook singles type groups, right? And then they do events on there about
things
that you
lame.
might be
Sorry,
interested
but
in.
I think there's some so lame ones. But there may be some good ones, but there's some really lame ones.
And I think you go in and you figure out whether you want, because some of them you may not want to be a part of, right? And then others you might. Now I've heard some friends be pretty successful in the meetups. And going to I think it's meetup.com or whatever, and they have different groups that get together on things that you're interested in.
Like biking or
hiking or real estate. If you're into real estate investment, if you're into gardening, if you're into all these different things, you want to learn to play tennis, or you want to pickleball. I mean, there's a lot of those different things, and getting involved in something you think you have interest in,
absolutely,
and getting to know those people. What's the worst? You might make some new friends.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly, and get out and have some fun, which everybody needs to do.
Yeah.
No, those are good points.
I was gonna just mention something before we finish, and that is and it's really kind of the theme of my book. And that is the whole idea of activator is that the science around the fact that our interactions with people can really activate their brain. It literally lights up the brain. Case Western Reserve University researchers there actually looked at the brain and showed that in certain types of interactions we have with people, it lights up 14 areas of the brain, and these are the areas that you want to have. Creativity, relationship-oriented, good thinking, feel good, all those different great areas. And
Right.
And that's kind of what you want to think about in terms of your strategy when you meet someone, or even if you're having a first, video date,
Right.
which actually is a good thing to do, like, FaceTime someone before you go meet them, or have a phone conversation.
Could I ask again what those things are for men and women to activate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so actually the research is specific about this, and that
Good.
is
We love
when a
specific
person
research.
asks another person about their values, about their dreams, about their passions, and their goals. Those are some of the top areas specifically it's mentioned in this research project.
Okay, so everybody take those notes down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ask people about, what makes life worth living for them.
Right.
And what their dreams are, what their goals are. And that's a really good way to get to know them anyway, but also it literally lights up the brain. We know that it lights up the brain. Now,
So
there's
that's
other...
creativity, because they have to access, it's not just talking about their kids and their everyday life. You're accessing that creativity side, right?
Yep.
So it's more on that dream, kind of like dream state for people. This is
Yeah.
what I want. This is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. And those bring good feelings
And
versus...
you just mentioned a really good one right there. What a real popular, really good conversation to have is about, bucket lists. What do you want to do in life?
Yeah.
Where do you want to travel? And
Yeah.
where have you been? What did you like about that? What was your favorite places? These are all good things that actually stimulate our brain. And we literally release dopamine. We release oxytocin.
Right.
Oxytocin's the bonding chemical, which makes us like someone and want to trust them.
Right.
And so for women, that's the thing. Like, if you could have a cologne that made oxytocin rise. I mean,
That'd be
that would
something.
be huge,
That'd
right?
be
For
something.
men.
Yes.
But it'd be to attract a female, that would be one of the best things, because it is a thing that says, oh, I want to be with you, I trust you, I like you, and that oxytocin is, matter of fact, we know that oxytocin secreted more after sex, and when you eat chocolate, which is a really interesting thing on Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah, here we are.
So if you
I'm
want
sure
more
there's plenty of
oxytocin,
people you don't have to eat chocolate to.
but the idea of the book, but the idea of whenever I coach people around relationships, oftentimes it's about a collaborative relationship at work, or it's a manager, supervisor, employee
Yeah.
relationship. It really kind of goes back to, if we want to bring out the best in people, then we are thinking about what's that interaction, the connection that we create with that person.
Right.
That's very chemically oriented.
Right.
But it's very chemistry oriented.
Right.
But it's how we go about doing that, and that is interacting in ways that we are seeing ourselves in the best light, that we're thinking about the future, we're thinking about possibilities, and even using words. There's great research around words that prime people.
Yeah.
So if you are more, here's one thing I would tell people, and some women are really bad about this. I'm sure some men are, but I haven't gone
Yeah.
on any dates with men. But
That's good to know.
it's negativity.
Yeah.
You want
Huge.
to, if you start gossiping about somebody else, if you start talking about how bad the food was at another restaurant or this restaurant, or how bad this, and sometimes people use negativity to try to connect with people.
Yeah.
And it actually works at times, right? When you got that person who comes in and sucks the energy out of the room,
Right.
a lot of times they're the person that wants to get all these people into their negative energy with them,
Right.
right? And
That's-
but you
that's the
leave
group to
empty.
stay away from,
But
yeah.
you leave empty. Well, it's the same
Yeah.
thing. That's not the type of attention nor connection that you want around negativity. So try to be as positive as possible.
Which
Even being
baggage-
careful. Here's real popular is having dates where you're just talking about negative dates before.
Yes, and baggage. Like if you, if
your
you,
ex, and those things like
Yes.
that. You're bringing negative energy into that, and what you want to do the exact opposite.
You're
You
sucking people dry instead of lifting them up.
You want to project, and you want to prime positive energy and success and happiness and those sorts of things. In fact, in my book, I have a list of about 100 terms that are words that you can actually utilize, that science-based, that we can actually prime in people. They looked at real research where they showed that if someone is talking to someone using these words, they go out and behave differently.
Right.
They're more collaborative, they're friendlier, they interrupt less. One of them was actually a negative positive in terms of the words they use, and they found that the negative terms, when they used things that were more negatively, that when they observed conversations of these people interacting, those who were primed with the negative words interrupted 60% more often than those who were the positive, and they were less collaborative and they listened less.
You know, words are so important, not just from the standpoint of how, like you said, how it causes people to listen or not listen, tune in, tune out, and the feeling that it gives people, you know, and what they leave with. But there's an energy to words, and that's a whole other psychology that and science that is too lengthy to get into right now since we don't have any time left. But there's a book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself, Shad Homstetter. I have given it to lots of people, but it is all about words. I mean, and how powerful words are. And it's why it takes me forever to write a post, because I'm so particular about a word, sometimes just the right word somewhere. But words have the power to influence things one way or the other. And they they have energy to them, positive energy or negative energy, light or darkness, and we need to be cognizant of that and what language we're using and how we're showing up to conversations, because that's going to make a connection or break a connection.
I tell leaders, your words spark chemistry.
Yeah.
What chemistry are you sparking?
Yeah.
Right? And so you got to think about that. The words that you use, what is it building inside other people?
Right.
Right. And I don't know how many of your listeners are men or the percentage here, but one of those list of things that I mentioned about some basic things men can do to get better outcomes, which is, taking responsibility, having goals, dressing well.
We like all those.
Those sorts of things.
Check.
If you want to kind of take that next level, one of the things us men are typically not good at in general is word usage and our vocabulary. In fact,
so don't judge a man.
Well, I teach emotional intelligence, and when I'm in corporate environments, and I will ask the women, write down, I'll have a room full of people, women, write down as many emotions in 15 seconds as you can.
Yeah.
And they start jotting down, and I have the men write down as many as you can. I'm like, women, what'd you come up with? And you hear word after word after word, and there'd be a word of 20 or 25. And for men, it's like happy, sad, and whatever, angry or something like that. Yeah. And it's just a difference in somewhat how our brain works, but also what we focused on, what we've learned over time. And for men, if we can build in and even just be thinking about, that's why I put these words in the book, even for leaders especially, how do you build some of these things in so that they are, I call them power words, activation words that light up the brain of other people.
This is important. I mean, this is all the stuff you can do to make connections better without changing a whole lot else.
So let me... Here's the difference. Okay. So for men, we can get better at having better words, right? Choosing better words. Women kind of have the opposite, and you hit on it a moment ago there, and that is women have to remember that words can have different meanings and perceptions to them. And so that's where we get a lot of miscommunication. This is another thing that I teach in emotional intelligence and communication, is that it's the filter that goes through. Yeah. We see and hear what we hear. It goes through a filter, and then we make meaning out of that. Problem is, a lot of miscommunication comes from how women make meaning of one word. Yeah. And can often get upset about that 100%. Because they've made meaning get right by in their head. What's that meaning made from? What's that filter made from? Biases, experiences, assumptions, perceptions, their baggage from their past, their hurts. And all of a sudden, something that might simple that a man says can immediately become a big deal. And so for men, it's like lean into verbiage, lean into words, and build your vocabulary. Women, it's more of, hey, how can you utilize your words from a more dynamic, not just your perspective, but seeing what words might mean from other perspectives.
Yes. Yeah, I know. It's funny. That is exactly what what happened on that post today is this guy used this word along with when he was talking about sex. And I was trying to find it. It was one word that was taken and completely misconstrued. And ladies, you get in your head and make decisions about things. Now you've made a judgment on somebody. I mean, what if that's your perfect person and you've decided that whatever word they chose to use because they liked it and it described an energy that maybe they liked, you've decided it's something else, and now you've lost an opportunity at an amazing person because of a judgment that you made about a word, about a freaking word.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Or even a phrase, right?
Yeah. We're going to have to do a part 2 because there's too much we didn't get to, and there's too much that we should talk about because this is a conversation. For me, I can talk about things I really want to talk about here because you get it. There's so much to connection, making a connection with somebody, conscious and unconscious. There's a lot of things that, and I don't want to say manipulate, but that's the word I'm looking for, that we can change in ourselves, learn new things that we can do to show up better. And we touched on some, but not all. So we're going to have to do a part 2 on this. I know everybody enjoyed it so much, but I hope this helped. Valentine's Day, we're talking about love, relationships, and all this deep stuff, which I love. It worked for me. But I hope you guys had a great time in whatever you're doing tonight. Whether you're going on a date or not, it's totally fine. If you're not going on a date, love yourself. I mean, National Love Day. It's not about going. I mean, it's a Hallmark holiday. It really is. I've always felt that way. It's always great to get a card. Guys, don't show up without a card. But for your girlfriend, I mean, if it's a first date, please don't bring a card. That would be weird, right? But make it special. Make sure you acknowledge it. Even if a woman's not into Valentine's Day, make sure you acknowledge it and have fun. And if you're home, do something well for yourself. Take a hot bath. Rewatch the Super Bowl if you're a guy. I don't know. I mean, nobody really watched it here, but do something that makes you happy and that brings more love into your life. So we don't need anybody else to love ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me. And you guys,
you're welcome.
Jason's book is Activator, and it's on Amazon. I know I'm so spatially. Amazon and even the Audible, right?
Audible.
Yeah,
Barnes
for those
and
of you
Noble.
who don't like to read, Barnes and Noble. Yeah. For those of us that still love to go to the bookstore, which I do. I love it. I love to go in and touch books. All right, everybody. Well, have a great day. And you know what? I'm going to see you guys in 2 weeks. I'm digging my 2-week schedule. I need it right now. I'm still too busy. So I'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a good day. This is Jennifer. Thanks for listening today, and please subscribe to the podcast. Every single week we'll have new information, and if you'd like to find out more information or if you have any questions, please go to my website at lovejen.com, or you can find me on Facebook at my personal page, Jennifer.